Hello, welcome to Aadit's History, the biggest rival to Heimler. Today I'm going to be explaining Chapter 5. Let's just get started with 5.1, which is just talking about in the Americas, like the Europeans establishing themselves there. Uh, right. So, let's just get started, okay? So, we're going to start off with, we've got Europe, obviously. So, Europe is doing their dandy little thing. And they're all in competition with each other. They're trying to one up each other, and they want money. And so they're after the Mongols fall, the Europeans they still want like access to like the awesome Asian goods they got, so and they still want to trade with the Asians. But the problem is that without the strong Mongol government ruling over all of Asia, it's a little more difficult. Right now, like the Europeans have to go through the middleman of the Ottomans. They don't really like that. The Ottomans aren't really being that great to them. So the Europeans, they're gonna try and search for another route to go to the Americas. And they know the world's round, so they're just like, hey, why don't we just try going over the sea? So they do precisely that. And in 1492, Columbus says like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Like, and 1492, Columbus sails the ocean blue. He reaches the Americas, and so Columbus goes to the Americas and he reaches the Caribbean islands and he's like, hey, there's like these people here, and Columbus is going to go back to Europe. He's going to tell the Queen of Spain, Queen Isabella, and he's going to say, hey, I found this awesome land here. So then Europe sees the Americas, and so this is super awesome. They see like, oh wow, there's tons of land. So then the Europeans decide to get over here. There's two big civilizations, as we might remember. You've got the Incas in in the Andes, and you've got the Aztecs or the Triple Alliance in Mesoamerica. And so now the Europeans they go over here. They see, wow, these are rich. Okay, they in in 1519, Hernan Cortes is going to go over to the Aztecs, and he's going to see, oh my god, they have like all of this wealth, and he's like, wow. So Hernan Cortes is like, so good. Wow, this is so cool. Mine. It is all mine. Um, so he's going to eventually invade the Triple Alliance and take over, and similarly, the Incas will also fall to the Spanish. But before we get there, how did they even do that? Okay, the Europeans are kind of like really like not that good, and you've got like these massive, powerful civilizations, and you've just got a couple of Europeans. So what's up? So the Europeans have a couple of advantages. First of all, you've got the advantage of things like technology. It's not that big an advantage actually at this time. But they've got like better like shipbuilding. They've got gunpowder weapons, but I wouldn't say that's a big advantage because it was just so bad. Like the reloading times are like crazy slow, and it was just there were gunpowder weapons like they might have been an advantage, but they were like really inaccurate, not great. But the textbook does mention it as an advantage, so just remember that. But but the main other thing is that you've got iron working, so that's like good because you get things like iron armor and things like that. So that's cool. But the biggest thing is that you're gonna have the Europeans have disease, and so disease. What's gonna happen is that the Europeans and the Asians they've been living alongside all of these like diseases. They've been living with animals for so long. If you remember, in previous chapters we learned that the only animals that could be domesticated in all of the Americas were the alpaca and the llama, which and that too that's only in the Andes. No other animal could be domesticated in the Americas. So then that's like, oh no. So, um, so they're not really going to be able to live alongside animals much. So they're not going to have resistance to diseases from animals. Then the Europeans are going to come here. They've been living alongside sheep, horses, etc., for so many years, and now they're just going to come over here, bring all these diseases, mostly like measles, perhaps things like smallpox, especially. And GG, it's over for the natives. Okay, the natives have no immunity, and so the Native Americans or the indigenous peoples, they are just going to die massively. Um, but if for context, like when the so in the fall of Tenochtitlan, which is the Aztec or the Triple Alliance capital, so what happens there is like as we heard in the podcast, what happens is like Hernan Cortes comes there. Like Cortes will go there. He's gonna eventually get kicked out by them because he massacres a ton of them and causes a ton of issues. So he gets kicked out. But then like when he comes back because of disease, they're like in chaos because 50% of the population dies in 1 year that he before he comes back. So 50% in not even 1 year, it's just a couple of months, and then he's back and like 50% of the population is dead, and they're like trying to figure out how to deal with like this massive disease, and Hernan Cortes just comes in and like sweeps the kill. So it's over for them, and so that's a big issue for the Native Americans. Another thing is that the Native Americans have a lot of infighting. There's a lot of divisions among the indigenous peoples. In fact, in today in Mexico, they will still call some of the Native Americans traitors. But so it's interesting because in what'll happen is that a lot of people will be resentful of the Incas and the Triple Alliance because the as we know the Mexica people, they conquered a ton of people and they would fight not to kill but to capture, and so through that they would take those people that they captured and they'd use them as human sacrifice, and so they're not really happy about that. So the other people are pretty unhappy. They're pretty angry. So you can argue rightfully so, and so they and they're not happy because the people who've been conquered, they have to pay tons of tribute. It's just not really great for them all around. So they're just no. So they will join the Spanish, and so that's how like the Spanish they only have an army like when they're invading Tenochtitlan, they only have an army of what is it 500 soldiers ish, and then they somehow take down the biggest civilization in Mesoamerica, and that's because once again they have so many of the indigenous peoples just join them on their effort to like, oh, we're gonna go and destroy the Triple Alliance, so we're gonna destroy the Mexica, yeah, and so they all join the Spanish, and they're like, boom, boom, boom. So we join the Spanish, defeat them, right? But that so they're gonna do that. They'll join them, and in the among the Incas, it's similar. A lot of people are resentful of the fact that although there's not really much of human sacrifice, people are still resentful of the fact that they still have to pay tons of taxes, do tons of labor for like the Incas. So they're not happy. So they're like, we're gonna join you, especially like the Inca elites. They think that they're being liberated from the Incas. So that's not really great for the for those two empires. So they're gonna fall to the Spanish. So now you've got like what is it? This is let's say that this is South America. This is definitely South America. I promise. Okay. So like no, this is like here we go. This is South America. I promise. So then so this is like Brazil-ish, and then like let's say like here's like Panama, and then here's like North America. Wow, great. So here's Mesoamerica, falls to the Spanish. Boom. Then we've got like the Inca, so that's like the Andes. They're gonna fall to the Spanish, and then Brazil. This will be like Portuguese. So all around, it's kind of they're gonna get conquered. Not great for them. So now let's just like move on from that. So now like what happens in like the aftermath of this, right? So then so that's what happens in the aftermath. That's essentially all of 5.2, which focuses on the colonial side of societies in America, and I'll get to that later. However, the other important thing that we talked about in 5.1 is the we talked about the importance of the Little Ice Age, or I'll just say like LIA, and the what is also known as a period during the Little Ice Age known as the Great Crisis, or General Crisis, sorry. So these basically in the Little Ice Age, what happens is like I think like 1200-ish to 1800-ish, you get like a sharp declines in the climate, and well, it's a Little Ice Age, it's not like an actual ice age, but the climate will become colder, and so this is going to be basically all of the early modern period, and so Little Ice Age is gonna cause a massive changes on how the early modern world developed, and this is seen especially so during the General Crisis. Okay, so the General Crisis is like during like the mid 1600s. What's gonna happen is that you'll see that there's like record low temperatures, and so the if things are gonna get cold, and when things get cold, then now your crops are not growing, your harvest season will become shorter, etc., etc. It's bad. Okay, you do not like it. So, people are angry. Okay, they're like, I need food, and so there's like famines and all, and so like, in like the it's like in China, in India, blah blah blah, everywhere. There's like tons of issues going on, and it's all because of these two. Okay, so once the general crisis is over, these crises will go away, and the reason is like when there's gonna be civil wars and things like that because of the general crisis, and that is because when you want food, then you're gonna be unhappy. You're unhappy. There's going to be um there's gonna be conflict. When there's conflict, war happens. So that's pretty much what it is. So that's the general crisis, the light, and that's already most of chapter 5. And so chapter 5.1, sorry, section 5.1, not chapter 5. And so let's stop there real quick. Oops, never mind. We're not stopping there. I forgot about the Columbian Exchange. So that's also part of section 5.1. I just checked. So the Columbian Exchange is that you've got your little Europe here, you've got your big Asia here, and you've got your little or big Africa here. Okay, so you've got this, and then so this is the old world, and then I guess you have your other stuff here. You have like the islands, you have Australia, etc. But I don't care about them. Now I have over here. I have my North America, and I have my South America. Okay, and so now that I have these, now they're going. So you've got the new world, the old world, and we're gonna have like the new and old world. We'll have them like interacting with each other, right? So in the old world, what's gonna happen is they're gonna bring things like horses. That's the biggest thing, okay? We finally get some like actually decent like animals that can be domesticated in the Americas that are universal, and this will forever change the ways of life in the Americas. Like like the how like in the Midwest, right? You've got like the people hunting buffaloes, right? They're gonna start becoming more nomadic, using the horses to hunt the buffaloes. So this is gonna change their way of life. You've similarly got like you've got the things like the iron and all, iron working technologies and all coming from Europe, coming from Asia, coming from Africa, but mostly Europe and Africa. Then in the New World, you've got the what is it? You've got corn. Corn is big. You've also got potatoes. Potatoes are big as well. So you've got like you've got avocados. You've got tons of different like foods here, and all these foods are important, okay? Because with these foods, and now the European population, they have more foods. They have more diverse foods, so they've got a variety of nutritious foods. And when people are nutritious, when people are healthy, then you have a greater population. And when you have more people, you can industrialize, you can do all these cool things. And so this is going to drive the population growth in Europe and Africa and Asia, but mostly especially in Europe. Okay, Europe, they're going to have massive increases in population, all because of like the New World. But another thing is what happens is Europe is going to introduce a lot of different things, and we're going to explore them more in 5.2. Okay, but if you want to see a more detailed diagram of the Columbian Exchange, um, maybe like for the test, maybe just like memorize for the LEQ at least, just like a couple of things on there. But that's pretty much it. Sorry, once again, it's not it. Okay. Before I leave, I just want to I remember. So, just keep in mind, like even though like both are getting like cool things, like the Europeans are benefiting like way more, okay? Like in the Americas, you've got like all these people turning into slaves, the Native Americans. You've got them getting like disease. So you get them being enslaved, you get disease, you get like their societies being completely overturned. Like that's not really like great compared to like the awesome stuff the Europeans are getting. Obviously, they're getting things like horses, which is cool, but it's also like coming with a lot of negatives. It's pretty unequal. So just remember that. That's something that'll be pretty important to remember. Okay.